Well, it's that time of year again. It's time for WWE's Money in the Bank. They're climbing to get the briefcase, NJ. It's about time that the British Fist, after all the time we haven't really been given too much opinion on it, it's about time we tell you who we feel is going to win Money in the Bank. The way we're going to do this is we're going to have NJ talk about the Raw Money in the Bank. We're going to have me talk about the Smackdown Money in the Bank. And then we're both going to have a little discussion piece at the end. So this should be fun. Please hit your comments in the comment section below. Please also give us video responses as well.
That's the thing, quickly I'm going to say is that, yes, we're grateful for the amount of comments we get, but for interaction and to get you more out there, video responses are always persuaded by us.
Indeed, and seeing as we're also not doing previews for pay-per-views now, you're going to be expecting more videos like this, like the big things like Money in the Bank. So, without further ado, let's let NJ talk about the Raw Money in the Bank, his thoughts on it, and who he thinks is going to win the Raw Money in the Bank.
The first thing I noticed about this ladder match is that they're all ex-WWE champions. We have CM Punk, who gave us that long title run, and as much as the WWE know, he'd give us a great match at a later pay-per-view for the championship once again. I think CM Punk should branch off to do other things in his career now before coming back to the title picture. Christian, who's recently returned, as much as fans, WWE Universe want to see him give us one more match for the championship, I don't think he should be the guy to go into that spot. I think he should be against main eventers, if that's where the WWE want him, or at least in the mid-card, putting over mid-card champions or opponents. Rob Van Dam is a guy who is expected to be a main eventer champion, but I personally don't think this run he should be in that spot. I can see him being a great guy, putting over mid-carders, giving them great matches, forwarding them to go into the main event. We have Kane, who I would love to see in the main event again, champion once again, as the Monster Kane, the guy that could just be a fearsome competitor for any face that goes up against him. But I don't think this is his time anymore, but it would still be a great thing for me personally and other Kane fans forwarding him on. We have Randy Orton, who is expected by the WWE Universe to turn heel once again. So if he's going to be winning Money in the Bank, going against a possible John Cena as champion, we have John Cena as the base, Randy Orton as a heel. Great match, but it's just depending on if the WWE want to put Orton back in that place again. We have Daniel Bryan, who the WWE are pushing incredibly well this time round. He's gone for the World Heavyweight, he's been the champion, now going for the WWE. But there are rumours, reports that Vince McMahon still isn't high on Daniel Bryan, even though he's getting his great push right now. Do I expect him to go ahead and win? He's one of the likely candidates to win Money in the Bank again. Then we have Sheamus. And he's another guy who is at top of his game, but he's been World Heavyweight Champion. He's been there. He's been the top guy on SmackDown. And that's the problem with this Money in the Bank. None of these are really going to be someone new in the title picture compared to the SmackDown one. But if I had to run through one of them and say who I think is going to win, I think it's going to be a battle between Randy Orton and Daniel Bryan. Yes.
So the World Heavyweight Championship Money in the Bank consists of Fandango, Wade Barrett, Dean Ambrose, Cody Rhodes, Damien Sandow, Jack Swagger, and Antonio Cesaro. And this, to me, is a very interesting Money in the Bank for many reasons. There's some positives and there are some negatives about this, which I really want to go into a bit of detail here. I'll start off with the one big positive. They're all quite new stars. There's no real main event star power in here, but they're all new guys. I mean, you look at guys like Fandango, Dean Ambrose, Damien Sandow, Antonio Cesaro. They've only been on the roster for a year or so, really. Some of them less than a year. So there is a lot of new talent in here. And the one thing that Money in the Bank is supposed to do, it's supposed to try and make new talent and try and put them into the main event. This is the one big positive, I think, about the SmackDown Money in the Bank ladder match. Some issues, though, I have. The SmackDown Money in the Bank is all heels. I mean, all baby faces in the Raw Money in the Bank, you can take a pass on that, I guess, because the fans are going to be cheering for all the baby faces. But with all heels in there, unless you're going to be cheering heels like, you know, the crowd possibly will do, it's going to be very hard for casual fans to get behind someone in this Money in the Bank, you know, because they're all heels. I mean, it just doesn't really work. You know, I also think that some people just don't belong in this Money in the Bank. You know, they've got 2 Money in the Banks and they could have just made one with some legitimate star power in there. But guys like Wade Barrett, Cody Rhodes, Damien Sandow, Antonio Cesaro, who have barely been winning matches lately, do they really belong in a Money in the Bank ladder match, which is essentially a #1 contendership match to the World Heavyweight Championship? You know, you kind of got to think about these things. You know, they randomly get put in there. Did they have a qualifier match? No. What merit does Antonio Cesaro have to be in the Money in the Bank ladder match? Last time he won a match was when he was US champion, which was pretty much before WrestleMania. He wasn't even on the WrestleMania card. Guys like Cody Rhodes and Damien Sandow have been cannon fodder to Sheamus. You know, guys like Wade Barrett have basically been a mid-card enhancement talent. The only guys in there that have really been built up in any kind of way are Fandango and Dean Ambrose. So that's why I think that Ambrose and Fandango won't be winning this. I think if Dean Ambrose won it, it would be a good idea because I think Dean Ambrose needs to be the guy out of the Shield to be put in the main event scene to go after the World Heavyweight Championship. But to be honest with you, I don't see WWE doing that. Fandango maybe could win this because we know WWE, and Vince McMahon especially, has a little bit of a hard-on for Fandango, and it will be his return match, so you never know. They may put the Money in the Bank on him. But knowing WWE, even though they have a guy in there in Dean Ambrose who has been winning quite a lot of matches, is the US champion, has the most momentum in this Money in the Bank ladder match, they'll probably end up giving it to a Cody Rhodes or a Wade Barrett, you know, guys that really should have been built up to win this in the first place. We all know WWE just love to make a Money in the Bank guy lose and be booked like shit if instead of building them up properly before they win Money in the Bank, which is probably why a guy like Cody Rhodes or Wade Barrett will win it. And it'll be like, well, they aren't a believable main eventer right now, so what's the point? I hope they give this to Ambrose because I think he's the one guy in here that has been built up in order to win this Money in the Bank. And I think Shield do need a main event member because Shield can be a main event and they could be a main event draw to some extent. So if there's one guy from that group who I think could be a main eventer out of the Shield, it definitely is the US champion Dean Ambrose. Also, one more point I want to bring up. A lot of these guys in here, like Fandango, Dean Ambrose, you know, Antonio Cesaro, they're in their first Money in the Bank, which means they haven't really got too much experience in the Money in the Bank, which means that I don't think this match will be anywhere near as good as the Raw Money in the Bank, which has got loads of star power in there. Guys like CM Punk, Christian, RVD, etc. that have been previously in Money in the Bank matches. That Raw Money in the Bank is going to be one hell of a Money in the Bank match, I think. I don't think the Smackdown one will really be that great of a match. I don't really think they have the talent in there, like the spot monkey, so to speak, in there, to actually give that big holy shit moment in a Money in the Bank ladder match, whereas I think the Raw one has that. So really, I don't think the Smackdown Money in the Bank is really going to be that entertaining. I just think it's going to be quite a bland, uncreative Money in the Bank, whereas I think Raw one is just going to be much, much, much better to watch. So I think what we have here, NJ, is we have two very different and very polar opposite, but yet very interesting Money in the Bank matches. I mean, you have the Raw Money in the Bank match that has got full of star power, full of guys that have already been in the main event, and you have in the Smackdown Money in the Bank a totally different set of guys that have not been in the main event much. And you know, it's very interesting to contrast how these two are actually going to work. I think the Raw Money in the Bank will be much better because they have much more experience in ladder matches. I don't think the Smackdown ladder match will be all that great, to be honest with you.
Well, to be honest, I miss the old Money in the Banks when they were first made, where we had wrestlers who anyone could win. It had a mixture of main eventers and non-main eventers. And now we're just getting, like, for the last year and now this year, Raw one's getting all the main eventers, which is putting Raw as the A show, while SmackDown's getting the wrestlers who the W are hopefully going to give a push. So SmackDown's one I'm more in favour for.
Yeah, I must admit, I'm also more in favour of SmackDown simply because we're going to be getting a new star out of this, possibly. Not because, I mean, none of these guys have really probably been booked apart from a guy like probably Dean Ambrose, maybe a Fandango. But you just know they're going to give the Money in the Bank to a guy like Wade frickin' Barrett that has been booked to shit, and that's generally how they like to do it. And like I said, though, I think I'll have more fun watching the Raw Money in the Bank ladder match, but the SmackDown Money in the Bank, I think, will give us more interesting results. That's just how I feel about it.
And I think Money in the Bank, from the past years before they started picking the main events to give them the cheap way to get to the main event, the Money in the Bank winner used to always benefit from this win. And now it just seems like, especially the Raw one, we're not really benefiting much from this compared to the SmackDown.
Yeah, I mean, also, not to mention the fact that the Raw one has all baby faces and the SmackDown one has all heels. And you know, all baby faces is fine. You can have loads of baby faces going at it because you can have fans cheering them or possibly smart about fans booing them. But the heel, you know, we all know crowds sometimes love to cheer heels, etc. But they're all heels. There's no one to get behind in this match. There's no baby face, you know, for the big spot. You know, it's kind of, I really wish they would have mixed these two up a little bit. You know, put a little bit of star power in the SmackDown Money in the Bank, put a couple of newer faces in the Raw Money in the Bank. I wish they would have, instead of just going one extreme with both these Money in the Banks, I wish they would have just mixed it up a little bit. And I think that would have made for better results, personally. You would have had a bit more experience in the SmackDown Money in the Bank match. You would have had a couple of newer faces in the Raw Money in the Bank match.
Well, the way that WWE have done it, in my opinion, is in the Raw one and the SmackDown one, they've made one guy look better than over the rest. Like in SmackDown, the Raw one, sorry, Daniel Bryan's been looked, so they'll probably be cheering Daniel Bryan more than the rest. On the SmackDown one, maybe they'll be cheering Dean Ambrose or Damien Sandow, or just someone that the WWE have been concentrating on a lot recently.
Yeah, so lots of thoughts on the Raw and SmackDown Money in the Bank. We would very much like to hear your thoughts on the SmackDown and Raw Money in the Bank and what you feel about them, and also who you think is going to win. Please let us know in the comment section below, or of course, like you said earlier, via a video response. But basically, I feel that Dean Ambrose and Fandango are the two people most likely to win, even though I feel that with the booking of guys like Wade Barrett, Cody Rhodes, they could very easily give it to them because we know what WWE are like at booking, you know, really shit Money in the Bank guys. But to be honest, in the Raw Money in the Bank, it really could be any one of those guys because let's face it, all of them have been in the main event before. All of them, like, you know, Punk, you know, Kane, guys like Orton, Daniel Bryan, Sheamus, have all been built up to be in that kind of position. So the Raw one will be a little bit will be less predictable in my opinion, but I think the SmackDown one will bring more interesting results.
That's what I'm looking at, and we've got many possible winners here in both Money in the Bank, so there could be the interest, but I just wish there would either be just a one Money in the Bank match, I've said that in the past, or at least put it onto a better pay-per-view.
Leave us your thoughts in the comment section below or video responses. Thank you very much for watching this video with us, the British Fist.
Good.
Mr. Parkin here, this guy sitting next to me, NJ.
What's up?
And goodbye to you all.